Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Bookworthy. I am your host, Chris Rini, creator of the Fine Art of Violence book series and now the art director for BloodyElbow.com. This past weekend at UFC Fight Night, we saw Merab Dvalishvili defeat Petr Yan in probably the first dominant loss of Yan's career. This is a truly momentous occasion because Jan's last two losses were an extremely close decision with Aljamain Sterling and a split decision with Sean O'Malley, which was one of those moments where even if Yan had gotten the O'Malley decision, O'Malley's stock rose tremendously for his, let's call it like it is, a valiant performance against an opponent who was, I admit, I also wrote off O'Malley. I had no idea he would perform as well as he did. This was an interesting fight night. More than anything, Jan's, I hate to call it a fall from grace, but he is at a crossroads. He's, 1-3 in his last four. One of those losses being the DQ to Aljamain Sterling. But momentum does matter in MMA. You never know how it's going to affect somebody psychologically. The other fantastic fight of the night was Jonathan Martinez defeating Said Nurmagomedov. I was really, really impressed. I've been keeping an eye on Martinez, and he closed out 2022 with a vicious, vicious performance against Cub Swanson, kicking, the Albuquerque fighter's legs to absolute shit. I think he dropped him with leg kicks, and then it was a perfunctory ground and pound. Anyway, Martinez really got on my radar at that point, and Nurmagomedov has been there for a while. A Dagestani with a heavy-duty kicking game. I love it. He's our substitute, Dagestani Abraham Lincoln, Zabit Magomed Sharapov. Oh man, those are the days, right? Otherwise, let's see, who else was there? Oh, Alexander Volkov versus Alexander Romanov. Romanov looked, I'm sorry, he did not look great. He has a great wrestling game and a very decorated grappler, but I'll forget it. He looked terrible. He looked, out of shape and quite frankly, just not very dynamic. Volkov is, I really hoped that Alexander Volkov would have fought for the heavyweight title. I thought he was a really interesting guy, and maybe he could have almost like a Klitschko kind of reign in the UFC. With that length, he seemed to have a good understanding of how to utilize his kicks, and I just thought he was an interesting guy. I think that Derek Lewis come from behind victory really, he screwed him over. And I don't mean that in an unfair way, it just changed his career trajectory. If you're looking at this is a portrait of Petr Yan that I'm doing right now. It's not the greatest, but I just wanted to capture a moment where Yan is between rounds and he's got this truly uncomfortable look on his face. His right eye has been swollen shut. I don't think they spoke much on the broadcast about how there was a very, very clear headbutt that did that damage. The fighters, mixed it up in the clinch. I think they were separating from a clinch, and that's what happened. So you can see Yan is in bad shape, and he's looking off to the side. This is in between rounds. Probably, I think it's either between the third and fourth or the fourth and fifth. He's down on the cards. He knows it. And I'm just not used to seeing this from him, this level of concern. So it's really an interesting time in his career. We'll see where he goes. I must admit that I prefer bantamweight with a successful Petr Yan. He is one of the most entertaining and technically interesting fighters in the UFC right now. Please check out the links in the description below. I publish cartoons, editorial cartoons at bloodyelbow.com, and I have an art studio that you can support through Patreon and receive books collecting the year in mixed martial arts, 2021, 2022, 2023. I think we go back to 2019. Thanks for your time, and I'll be back later. Take care of yourself. Bye. This is Chris.